Okay, thank you everyone for attending. This is the joint meeting of DPW Subcommittee and Town Council, Wednesday, January 9th, 2022 at 6 p.m. This is remote participation, and I'm calling this meeting to order. Roll call. Councilor Dow,
Present.
Councilor Steves, absent. Citizen Lazo, absent. Citizen Splain.
Present.
All right, we do have a quorum, thank you. Also in attendance is Councilor Jovan, Councilor Catrona, DPW Director Heather Blakely, Town Manager McCall, and Bill Pale of BSC Group. And also Council Chair Daniel, thank you. I almost missed you there, John. Okay. Consider and approve joint DPW Town Council meeting minutes of December 15th, 2021. Does anybody have anything to say about it? Corrections or anything? Seeing none, we'll accept the minutes as presented. Agenda item number 4, Citizens Forum. Do any citizens want to speak to anything tonight?
I'd like to, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Mr. Chairman, I was wondering if we can get a status update as far as the sidewalks on the junior high school. I noticed they did some cutting and replaced the entryways in, but I was questioning as far as the damage that was done to the other half of the sidewalks.
Okay. Anything else?
That's the first part.
All right. What I'll do is I'll have Heather, you can look into this. Kevin on it, because I don't really want to have a back and forth. I've been asked to have back and
This
forth.
was brought up at the last meeting, so I will give Kevin an answer that I had a meeting with the site superintendent. Some of the panels had been replaced, not all of them to my satisfaction. He was going back to the owners and they were taking it under advisement. They are not going to be complete before spring anyways. So at this point, that is what the current status will be.
Okay. Anything else, Kevin?
Yeah, I was just wondering, I have a question in regards to last meeting. I invited everybody to walk Main Street project and look at it. Not sure if anybody did or did not, but my question is where did the funds come from to do that project? Was there any state funds that were used to help pay for that project?
For the Main Street project?
Yes.
Yeah, that came from multiple sources, I believe. Chapter 90 funds, CDBG funds. I think I got it. Also some taxpayers funds, water and water stabilization fund.
Mr. Chairman, also some ARPA funds, I believe, at the end.
Go ahead, Mr. McCall. Councilor.
No, I believe we used some ARPA funds as well
Okay.
for the, when we did the paving.
So my other question would be, have we paid for this project in full yet? And are we accepting the work that they did?
I don't know the answer to that.
I can answer that. The project has not been paid for in full. It will have a punch list and a retainage, as is customary. That punch list has not been completed yet, so we will hold all the retainage until punch list is completed. And it hasn't been paid. We haven't got their last invoice.
So Heather, I don't know if you can answer this or not, but is there, since state funds other than Chapter 90 money, from how I just took it, help pay for this project, is there actually a state inspector that signed off or somebody from the state that signed off for the plans for this project on Main Street?
No, it does not have to go to a state inspector. That would only be if it was a Mass DOT project funded through the TIP.
Okay, so my last question would be is, you said there's a punch list?
Well, there will be a punch list. We already know that the paving is an issue, and we've already brought that to their attention.
Okay, so is it possible when the punch list is done that we can get a copy of that punch list?
Yeah, I will speak to the engineer about putting it together, but
Thank you.
like I said, we've already raised concerns regarding the paving, and that's already been agreed that will be reevaluated in the spring.
Yeah, but my other thing that I keep bringing up that nobody keeps mentioning is the curbing. That curbing is horrendous. And that's why I sent it out for anybody to walk Main Street and look at it. I mean, it's more than just the asphalt. I mean, that curbing is horrible.
I will just say, Kevin, a lot of that curbing was existing curbing that was kept in place and not modified. So, or modifications just to meet existing curbing had to do. We did not replace all the curbing and all the sidewalks. So you are dealing with some existing conditions.
So Heather, I just beg to differ with you on that. Please walk the project. I invite everybody to walk that project and look at it, please. That's a horrible job that was done. Please walk it. Thank you.
Well said, Kevin.
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. Just for the record, I'd like to say that Counselor Steves has joined the meeting. Agenda item number 5.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Are there any other citizens?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
just as a point of order, I respect the fact that Mr. Splain is providing some information here. However, he is a member of the subcommittee, not a citizen. So he is a citizen, but he's also a member of the committee. And to have dialogue on other things that are not on the agenda and have dialogue, and I appreciate the conversations, but any member should be able to contact you and have that as the agenda so other people could have been participated in that conversation. I just want to say that for the record, I get citizens forum, but you have to be careful that, he's talking about issues with a project that are rightfully so, but they should have been posted on the agenda so that we could have had a dialogue if anybody else had issues with it as well. It's just as a point of information. You just gotta be careful when you're a member of a committee to not talk about a dialogue about a whole project that we all know there's some issues with. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, your point is well taken. Agenda item number 5, discuss final quantities change order for Massachusetts Broken Stone for $80,086.67 to reflect the final contract amount of $804,703.27. Recommend to Town Council to approve change order number 2 with Massachusetts Broken Stone for $80,086.67 and extending the contract completion date by 2 days to reflect the last day of work funding from project 64843, road paving, construct and reconstruct. Can I have a motion, please?
Motion.
I'll give the motion to Splain. Second by Councilor Dow. All right. All right, you want to explain this, please, Heather?
Sure. So this is the final quantities change order. It documents the final quantities that were actually installed on the project that need to be paid out as final. It's based on the bid prices with adjustments for what was actually done. Some of them quantities go up, some of the quantities go down. I believe you have a summary of those quantities, what was the original bid quantity and what was the actual installed quantity with a difference. And so this is to finalize the contracts there. As you can see, some of the highlighted things of what went up, and I apologize because I was looking on the screen. Let me look here. adjustments to sanitary structures. We actually had to end up rebuilding one. Some of the other catch basin frame and grates are kind of small. The biggest one is the $100,000, $96,000 for the additional tonnage of pavement. As you all are aware, we ended up having to put Page Hill, we agreed to change it so that it became a complete reclaim and reconstruction. So now it didn't have just one 2-inch layer, it actually has 4 inches of asphalt. So that is the majority of that change right there.
Well said.
Yep.
Thank
I'll
you.
answer any questions I can.
Any questions? Counselor Dow, did you want to say something? You lit up there first.
Sure, thank you.
Okay. I would like to just say one thing. I don't recall us voting on Page Hill. I'm going to vote for this because I know we don't have any choice, but you said that we agreed to do a full reclamation of Page Hill, and I don't recall us doing that. However, we have to pay it, we have to pay it, so that's
So
all.
if you do see, just to answer you back, there's a reclaim line change order that was already approved. You can see that down the last line. So when the
Yep.
reclaim was approved, that means for proper construction, you can't just put 2 inches back. You're gonna have to put more than 2 inches back to hold the road.
Yep, okay, but I don't recall us doing anything more than just a mill and overlay on that road. At least I don't recall us voting on it. So
You
that's
voted
all-
for the
that was
first
my
change
only
order.
point. That was my only point on that. So, all right, does anybody else have anything? All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
4-0. Motion passes.
Hey, Mr. Chair, sorry, it's Counselor Adams. I couldn't get to the phone. I'm on the road right now. So apologize
Yeah.
for jumping in like that. Hey, I just
Nope.
wanted to clarify to Heather, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair. We did do a change order on this, right? Earlier.
That is correct. We did a change order only for the reclaim portion. So that is the additional task for reclaim. It wasn't for the pavement to go over the reclaim. There was a $30,000 change order for the reclaim. When we did the reclaim, I tried to explain this meant that we would be putting additional pavement down there because now we're not doing a traditional mill and overlay. We're reclaiming, which requires 2 layers of pavement to be put back down.
Very well. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, agenda item number 6, discuss negative change order for Indus Seal Coating Incorporated for a reduction of $30,000 for an approved contract value of $637,160, with the remaining amount to be spent of $68,765.51. Recommend to Town Council to approve the negative change order number 2, reducing the contract by $30,000 with Indus for a new contract value of up to $637,160, funding from project 64843, road paving, construct and reconstruct. Motion, please.
Motion moved.
Second.
All right. Motion made by Splain, seconded by Steves. Okay, Heather.
So we did a change order to increase their contract value to allow more work to be done because there was additional funding available at the time. With the $80,000 that we just approved, in order to balance what we have in our 1.5 million, minusing out the police amount accrued to date, what we had, we needed to reduce the quantity somewhere else. We spoke to Indus. They haven't obviously done this work yet. That's why we haven't been billed for it, where they're planning to do additional crack sealing in the spring, or look at additional projects that we could do, either fog sealing or anything in the spring. And at this time, we'll just reduce their scope of work till the spring so that it doesn't exceed this value. And this way, we're still within our 1.5 of approved fund. 1.5 million. just so that you have an idea, the police details right now total $42,657.50. We had, with the 804,703.27 is what the final mass broken stone. And to date, you have what we have occurred for Indus of 568,403.49, plus Mr. Piapi's 9,450, and the rental of the hammer of 5,400, for a total of spent to date, meaning not including what Indus could spend in the spring, of 1.4,300,613.91. So we're trying to keep within that parameters of the 1.5. That's the reason for doing this negative change order at the time, so that they're only authorized to do the amount of work under that 1.5 million.
All right, thank you. Any questions? No questions? All right, all those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes,
Yes.
4-0, motion passes.
just for clarification, Mr. Chairman, you're supposed to do roll call. Which we
Oh.
did state it, but you have to do roll call.
Sorry. Everybody said aye, so roll call.
We did this time, but
Thank
just
you.
read it.
Agenda item number 7, discuss change in scope with VHB for Main Street improvements to include proposal for evaluation of the traffic signal at Main and Elms, South Street, Central Street. This cost would be covered under the existing design and oversight contract. Recommend to Town Council approval of the change in scope with VHB for review of the intersection of Main Street and Elm Street, Central Street. There is no additional cost associated with this change in scope.
Okay. So
Any-
moved.
Counselor Steves. Second, please.
Second.
Thank you. Go ahead, Heather.
So at the last meeting, we discussed having the traffic light at Main Central and Elm studied to provide you with some information of how it was functioning. I said I would look into the cost associated. When I approached VHB, they said, I think we can do this under our existing contract. They provided me with the scope of work. They will evaluate the timing of the signals of how it currently compared to what it was in the past. And then they can make some recommendations regarding whether we should make any changes and what those changes would be and how they would affect the traffic.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Any questions? Counselor Steves?
Yeah, there, in the documents that VHB sent to us, Heather, it clearly states something about, where'd it go? A total contract value amendment 132.5 and amendment 2 12,000. What were those?
Honestly, I'd have to look back. One of them, the 32.5 was the design of the water mains, I believe.
Okay.
When we altered to make a complete water main design. The 12,000, I'd have to, hold on, let me see if I can pull it. I'm in my office, so I might be able to pull it up. Give me a second.
Because it does say here, performing the scope of services described in detail in this amendment, total estimated cost of 12,000, but they're not charging us for it. That's cool. Or does that mean that they simply haven't done all of the work yet that we've already paid them, or that we've already budgeted for?
Well, they budget a certain amount for oversight and design, and they had additional funds. They hadn't incurred those costs, so they didn't bill us for those.
Okay, that's good.
If you want to, just give me a second. I can see if I can answer the other question. It might just be in paper copy downstairs, though. So.
Well, the 12,000 is in parentheses, so I take it that that's minus.
So they're taking it off their original scope, and then this would be like a new amendment for 12,000. So
Right.
it's a net zero increase. It's a different scope than what was originally proposed, so they wanted to be clear on the scope.
Okay.
Instead of just going and doing it, they wanted to make sure that everybody was knowing what it was going to.
And do you have a time frame for how long this will take to do?
It says 4 months. The issue here is probably the traffic counts in the winter. They're going to have to be a little careful about when they can do that.
Uh-huh. Huh. Okay, it says 4 hours at each intersection, so.
I just see period of service. The engineer agrees to render the service within 4 months of the date of execution. So.
Okay.
I'm
Oh,
not
that's it.
putting my fingers on the engineering amendments easily, Gus. I can
No,
try to get you that answer for council, but
Okay,
you know, I know where it is downstairs. It's just a question of running down there to look at it in multiple locations type of thing.
don't worry about it.
You all set, Gus?
Yep, thanks.
Anyone else? Have any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, Councilor Marquetti is yes, Councilor Steves,
Yes.
Council Dow,
Councilor Dow,
yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
motion passes 4-0. Thank you. Item number 8, discuss complete streets policy. Recommend to town council accepting complete streets policy and submitting the policy for review.
Motion move.
Second.
Motion made by Dow, seconded by Steves. Okay, Heather.
So I've asked Ms. Dean to also be on this call because this complete streets policy and moving this complete streets program forward is being co-pushed with her department. For those of you that might not be familiar with Complete Streets is a program that Mass DOT and the state has for some additional funding for the purposes of making your streets looked at as a holistic approach, not just for cars, but for all modes of transportation, meaning pedestrians, bikers, cars and trucks also. At this time, the town has not taken advantage of any complete streets programs. What part of the program is the first step of the program is to do some training, which myself and I know Eric have both done. And the first step in the program is to get a complete streets policy that has to be accepted by the governing body and then submitted to the state for their review and acceptance. If they accept this, then we are accepted into the Complete Streets program. And the next step will be to do some evaluations of determining where our priorities are. And we believe we can still get some funding, and Peg, correct me if I'm wrong, for assistance in doing that technical evaluation. It's a multi-phase type approach. And then when we do, we have the ability to get additional fundings to assist in implementing some projects, specifically regarding Complete Streets. So we can add them to existing projects. West Street would be an example, but it's already started, so it won't qualify. But existing projects so that we could upgrade and make our systems more overall friendly. And it can be things for like handicap ramps. It can be things like bus lanes and sharrows and things for bikes and improving things for pedestrians. Peg, did I give a good summary? Do you have anything to add? I can't hear you.
Go ahead, Peg.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, so Bill Paley's on the call from VSC Group. He and VHB and CMRPC have all offered their services to us if we wanted technical assistance. So once we get the policy approved, any of them, we could put out an RFP for any of them to be hired for the less than $50,000 to do the prioritization plan. And then from there, we are eligible for up to $400,000 in projects. It sounds like the strategy is if of your prioritization projects, you can create a project for up to as much of that $400,000 as possible. What they'll do is they'll go in sort of a round robin of communities trying to dole out the funds. So when you get chosen, you've got a large project that you can propose then you will potentially be able to access those funds and then be eligible the next round. The sweet part about these funds is that they're eligible for sidewalks and they're eligible for shared paths. So it dovetails very well with if our agenda is to go forward, for instance, with a rail trail, being able to use those funds. My suggestion was potentially the non-existing sidewalk on West Street. If Heather, speaking with Bill Paley, he doesn't think it's going to be too late, because if we were to meet the May, they're called tiers. You submit the policy, you get the policy approved. You apply for the tier 2 funds by March. You get approved for the tier 2 funds to make your prioritization plan by April, to get approved by April. Is that all right, Bill?
Go ahead.
Hi, folks.
I'm sorry. Yes, Councilor Marquetti, may I ask Bill Paley to correct any statements I make or speak on our behalf?
That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, thank you. So just to be clear, the tier 2 prioritization plan would be due by April 1st. And then the tier 3 would be due by May 1st. And they typically review the applications and they make awards by July. And that's still, or maybe early August. And that still allows the municipality to apply funds to a project or projects.
And reading the state's documentation about what is eligible for funding, bless you, Councilor Steves, what's eligible for funding is projects that can be finished by the fiscal year end, that are well positioned, shovel ready. And so the West Street project actually would be an excellent candidate in those terms. And so reviewing that with Bill Paley, he agreed that this could potentially be one of their ideal projects. So with regards to the big picture, complete streets, we have to score an 80 or above in MassDOT's eyes. We were given some example policies that we looked through. We took out what we felt was too restrictive in other policies and packaged what we think is reasonable, and we hope that you'll support it.
Okay.
The concern, I guess, Bill, if Bill could answer just quick big picture, what kind of big picture consequences could this have for a community if we were thinking out worst case scenario?
Go ahead.
Oh, what do you mean by worst case scenario?
So Heather's concerned from a DPW director's perspective that this could then obligate towns to do more than they may have otherwise chosen to do, or be, asked to do more by Mass DOT. But if we've written the policy in such a way that it says, we will, when it's appropriate, consider the multimodal within reason, are we sort of protecting ourselves?
I understand. So, DOT really wants communities to think about all users while they're working on projects, as Heather said earlier. And it isn't a requirement by this policy that every single project has to have sharrows or bike lanes, but they want each community, DPW, police, fire, administrators, to look at each project and say, what can we do to make sure that we maximize the funds to make it accessible? If you can connect to a trail, great. Connect to a school, connect to public buildings. It's not a requirement. So I think communities have to look at these policies as this is a goal. This is what we're striving for. This isn't going to require you to spend millions of dollars to make sure you comply every street complies with this policy. I hope that helps.
All right, thank you. Councilor Steves, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A quick question to you. I was reading through it and I noticed it doesn't make any reference to public transit. We both have buses, and personally, I would love to see in the long term, see if we can resurrect that trolley line that used to run through town. That would be cool. But also I was thinking that as far you mentioned sidewalks, and I think it would be really useful to use some of these funds if we can get them to replace the sidewalk along Main Street that wasn't touched by the current project. The one going down toward the rotary there, because that's in terrible shape still. Down in front of the Art Center and the cemetery, for example. is in awful shape. So I just thought I'd bring those up, and I'd love to see, as I said, I'd love to see a trolley go through if possible.
I agree with you, Counselor. That sidewalk on Main Street is in pretty bad shape. I'd like to see a lot of these funds go towards sidewalks. Anyone else? Any questions?
Hey, Mr. Chair.
I think we lost. Counselor Adams, we can barely hear you.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, sorry, I'm still on the road. Hey, so I'm glad to see this come up. About 2 years ago, actually, before the new town manager took over, I sat down with both Heather, Matt, Rosemary, Ron St. Angelo. Peg, you may have been there, I forget, or Eric was there. And we had this conversation about the complete streets, which I thought was a great idea because it provides more assets to our infrastructure projects in the near future, along with ADA compliances, bike lanes, and a few other things. That meeting didn't go so well, but I was very happy to see that it actually is now on an agenda item, and that I really like the policy that Heather has brought forward because it allows the town to take a look at it, not necessarily act upon it. So I'm a big support of this. I will say that today I sat on the CMMPO meeting, and I believe there was only 2 road projects they had briefed today. I lost contact with them earlier on, but out of the 2 major municipality road projects they're working on, they're utilizing the complete streets to work on shared projects as well. So it was good to see that other towns are utilizing this. I believe we're about 4 years behind the power curve on the complete streets projects anyways, but I'm glad to actually see it move forward. And I fully support this. Again, it just adds more assets to the town, an opportunity for the town to move us in the right direction in the near future. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Counselor Adams. I hope you're not driving and talking on your phone at the same time, because
I'm absolutely am, but I'm okay. I'm on the speakerphone.
all right.
I'm hands-free, buddy.
Okay. Anyone else have anything?
Mr. Chairman,
Counselor Ryan?
thank you. Through you, I actually just wanted to say I love this idea. I'm glad it's moving forward. But I also wanted to jump off Councilor Steve's points. There is a way actually I could bring up at one of the route meetings for the WRTA a way to, if this is going to be something that's going forward, a way to redirect the route to possibly have stops at sites on the rail or near the rail trail. So I could see real opportunity there. So I want to thank Councilor Steve for that, because that got my brain going. We could actually do that.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? No? All right, if no one has anything else on this one, we'll take a roll call. Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Dow?
Yes.
Kevin Splain?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, 4-0. Thank you. Motion passes. Agenda item number 9, discuss 75% design plans for West Street. Review roadway layout and design. Counselor, Ms. Blakely and I had a little talk about this tonight. I would just assume that if you're going to talk about the rail trail, that you bring that up at planning and development, because this West Street review roadway design, we voted on this last March, and this was Chapter 90 funds. The rail trail is a P&D issue. I would just assume that you would speak about that planning and development. If you have something to talk about the West Street design that we voted on, Ty and Bond put this together using Chapter 90 funds, then by all means, bring it up.
Well, I do absolutely have something to talk about the West Street design. I wanted to discuss the design that we have now, which is being funded, yes, for the design portion out of Chapter 90, but partial of the construction out of CDBG funds, water fund, sewer funds and additional Chapter 90 funds and whatever additional funds that the town council can appropriate at the time to be able to do the entire project. So I have provided links to the design documents as they are now, which is actually up to 100% design for the review of the counselors and the review of this committee so that they are better informed on the project. Some of the feedback that I've received is that I don't feel that maybe we haven't always properly communicated before we've gone out to bid of whatever designs are. So I think, to be more transparent, I wanted to share that information. I will say that in doing this design, when we have looked at the rail trail, an issue has come up with the complete, not just the rail trail, the bike path between, which is the feasibility study for the overall planning of the bike path from Dudley to Southbridge. So this isn't just rail trail, this is how you connect all the way through. The suggested route with the phone call was to come up West Street. And when a project like West Street, we're spending, millions of dollars to upgrade West Street, and something that be a potential project in the future that's going to impact that design that could be addressed now for very limited funds and incorporated now, I think it was in my, I think I need to bring it up to the council so that they know and are aware of what potential options there are. So Ty and Bond was gracious enough to look and did a quick sketch plan of what that option could look like. That was also provided as the alternate, and that is the only reason I want to discuss it. I know that there's a whole discussion tomorrow regarding the bike path and a possible grant opportunity. It is nothing more than a discussion. Depending on what the outcome of that grant opportunity is, I think then we would have additional discussions of whether we should be building the multi-use path on West Street as part of the planned activity now, because if not, you're going to end up spending a lot of money in the future. Now, there is alternatives. We don't have to. This is just an option. There's alternatives. Maybe the town decides that this is not the alternative, but I wanted to bring it forward so everybody is aware of it. There are benefits and drawbacks to both alternatives. I won't say that they're not. Now, this is not a perfect street. We're not building brand new streets here and can't accommodate everything. So that's why we have to work within our existing right-of-way and our existing limits. And we're doing our best to provide those options. So I just wanted to be able to present those options. I've never done this. So if you would like me to share my screen and I can put them up on the screen, I can potentially do that. But I do think, I don't know, I know you guys received 11 by 17s in your packet. Oh, actually you received everything digitally. So I'm sorry. If you had it printed, they might've printed you 11 by 17s. I did provide those or suggest that. But I think there's a couple important points. I'm just gonna call them up on my other screen because I did have them open. I think I can do that. There's a couple important points to address here. First of all, we had planned and we're looking at putting additional sidewalk on, if you're heading up West Street, the right hand of West Street. There is not currently sidewalk on that side. By doing that, it actually ends up limiting we won't be able to do parking on that side. We will be able to stage in front of the school because there is already sidewalk there as they currently are for staging for pickup, but it leaves oh, you want me to present? Okay.
And if you want to present.
Let me see if I can figure this out.
If not, we all have a copy of it.
Okay.
The only thing that I wanted to say, Heather, is that you have time to get this before planning and development, and you can talk about it there, and you can also talk about have it in time for the town council. I know we voted on bridges, fixing bridges in town over a year ago, and those still haven't been worked on. So we have time. No, we have time.
We're looking to go out to bid on this month.
Okay.
This is the bid.
You can talk about it. Just, if it pertains to the design, that's fine. I don't have a problem with it.
It pertains to options with the design. Yes.
Okay.
You guys aren't, let me see, screen. Monitor 1, share. Oh, look at that. So I am just going to go down. As you can see, this is quite the set of drawings. But I think the easiest plan to look at as far as what is it going to look like when we finish, the traffic lining plan. Maybe I missed it. Sorry for the scrolling. Should have been prepared with what pages they were. So I just want to point out that, so we have put, I think this is, right. So this is, if you can see this plan, I'm going to point to the top here. This is the Main Street end at West Street,
Right.
going up towards Lovely. They're putting a concrete sidewalk, starting at the existing concrete sidewalk and running the entire length up to the school. That provides us with a 7-foot parking. Right here, you kind of see that 7, and I can probably go in a little, to 11-foot lanes and another 5-foot, basically apron, which isn't wide enough to park in. It doesn't function anything. And if people park in there, it's going to really limit the lane width. And then there's another 5-foot concrete sidewalk. Currently, that sidewalk's not there, so there is parking available technically over there right now. We kept the parking on the side where most of the residents were. There's already existing sidewalk there, and we put the concrete sidewalk there. You can see evidence that people are using that area. They call them goat paths sometimes when we talk about things. So it is very crucial that, you know, this is a school. The kids are using this. The school is on that side. There is a need for a sidewalk there. I think there's always been one. I think it will really benefit the school and their area. I want to, if somebody has a question, just kind of let me know, because I'm not really looking at the camera. I'm looking at my other screen. I'm going to continue up. Let me pan out a little bit. So we're getting closer to School Street and the West Street and the connection at West Street. We're putting a new flashing school beacon in there. That will be a solar powered as opposed to tied to the grid, which actually helps reduce our whole energy cost also. We're looking to improve the sidewalk on School Street because there's a disconnected sidewalk also there. We're putting a new rapid fire beacon and new crosswalk at the school, moving it down from the current location because the current location isn't useful in the location it is for the school. This will be closer to where a lot of the walkers come in and be able to cross right there, and closer to one of the door entrances, be able to direct right into the handicap access. As we continue up the street, oh, that's down the street actually. So Collier, traditional, we're upgrading all the handicap ramps, any of the sidewalks where we touch them. The sidewalks on this side actually aren't too bad down in the lower area. Up top, there's some leveling issues with the sidewalk, so we are looking at replacing some of those sidewalks. This is up at Dennison and South Street. We also have problems up there that there is lack of crosswalks and appropriate crosswalks with handicap ramps. There's new handicap ramps going in there to allow for safe crossing. There's suggested areas of no parking, Westville, stop lines. We are putting when we put in the sidewalk will wrap in front of the parking that's next to the field, with a crosswalk also at the entrance that goes back to the field. We'll stripe those parking spots again. They are currently striped, but we'll restripe them. And again, we're maintaining that 11-foot. This is all new sidewalks up in this location. In addition, see if I can give you some more highlights to this project in general. I'm not on the sewer plan, but you can go to the sewer plan. The sewer is being replaced in this general area. It is crushed and not, undersized, crushed, and really not functioning very well. So we will be upgrading the sewer. The water, as I know most of you are familiar with all the potholes that we get in this intersection, and there's a lot of gate valve covers and a lot of manholes and different things in this intersection. This intersection is all going to be completely rebuilt, even the water lines. There's duplicate lines there, and they're using old, what is called a PRV pit that is no longer in service and is out of date. So we'll be able to upgrade the old piping in that area that has had some leaks and issues in the past as part of the water funding in the project. And then the water line on the lower half of the street is also being upgraded on West Street. This is also will be a complete reclaim and then reconstruction project for paving purposes. So we're basically water, sewer, I didn't even mention drainage, all the drainage, anything that's corrugated metal pipe is being replaced. Any concrete pipe will remain. All the catch basins are being upgraded to make sure they're compliant with stormwater regulations. What else? So this is this is one of those, like Main Street in many ways, but complete reconstruction of the project, reimagining the current layout of what the road looks like by adding sidewalks in the current right of way. And that's one of the reasons why, if we're going to spend, their estimated cost right now is 3.3 million. We're going to spend 3.3 million and half a year from now get a grant to do a bike path through the whole town for very small money, from what I'm being told by Ty and Bond. By just moving out the sidewalk, we can have a multi-use path going up where we're putting in the new sidewalk. And it would be up to the school with the purposes of connecting into the paths that are down at the West Street fields, which would get you over to Westfield and Sturbridge. So we're trying to look at an overall plan. I can pull up that plan if you want to see what that looks different, but basically that 5-foot shoulder would be moved out, so there wouldn't be a 5-foot shoulder between the sidewalk and the travel lane.
All right, thank you. I think that's pretty good. West Street definitely needs work. Parts of South Street, just before it attaches to West Street, also needs some sidewalk work. There's parts of it have no sidewalks whatsoever. Councilor Steves. You're on mute.
Yeah, I got you. Thank you. Yeah, to tie into what Heather was just saying a second ago, where do you mentioned, because obviously we've got the trails that are already there. Where do you see it crossing on Main Street? Because that's a dangerous intersection.
Yeah,
and I can easily see it going up that 5-foot stretch and being the trail right there, because that's easily wide enough for a bike.
So I don't want to still peg and Bill's thunder, but I know what the thinking is. It's kind of come up Mill Street to the lighted intersection there and have a potential crossing, the signal at the lights be adjusted so that there would be a crossing for bike path and pedestrian.
All right, thank you.
Bill, is that accurate? Yeah. It takes a little.
That will be brought up tomorrow night at Planning and Development, I believe. All right.
It's still concept. It's just a concept. It could change. It's just something to get as a concept. I do think, I will say this, there is a benefit to a multimodal path here, even if we're going to do something on Main Street that is just sharrows, because Main Street becomes very difficult, but it is connecting near school. So if kids want to ride their bikes in this area to school, they can get on that path. It is connecting to our fields that are in the area that obviously are used for recreation. There are other paths down there that would need to be upgraded. Some don't, it's not that they're perfect right now, but if we're planning to do upgrades in the future, this is one of those locations that is a perfect opportunity to look at complete streets and without really any impact or very minimal impact, be able to provide a lot of benefit for those other modes of transportation.
Thank you. Are you all set, Counselor Steve? Okay.
I think.
Peg Dean, did you want to say something?
I did. I wanted to honor the keeping the conversation within the West Street design, albeit we have the bigger picture happening simultaneous. If you were to just look at the shared use of West Street, this came up in the initial conversations about how West Street would look for these school students. And one of the glaring statistics I saw recently was this was the deadliest year for pedestrians in the last 10 years. And I don't know if it was pedestrians and more, but you know, with distracted drivers, I think that these are these prized sections of our town where our schools are one of the places where if you can segregate any of those, you know, kids on bikes, right? Any of those students who are walking, if you can segregate them, you have a better chance of avoiding any kind of catastrophes. I'm very passionate about this. A neighbor across the street from me passed away in a pedestrian accident here in East Hampton, and it breaks my heart that, in an instant, people's lives are changed because we didn't have a rapid flashing beacon or we didn't have a dedicated bike lane. And I'm not saying that these things are solving our problems, but they're showing that they're at least helping to prevent in some cases.
All right, thank you. Are you set? You're all set? All right, thank you. Anybody else have anything?
Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. Let me interrupt again. Hands-free though, just letting you know. All right, so I would say that this is one of the discussions that we had a long time ago, again, with the complete streets. And I know you don't want to really discuss certain portions of this, but I think this is a good concerted effort on two departments where they can work together to better not only our parks, but the trail itself, along with the street on West Street. You know, this path going from Main Street that the state just did with their bike path onto West Street and on over to maybe one of the trails, I think is a great idea. I think if we can take advantage of this and gain the extra financial assets to fix all this stuff in one area, I think it's going to go a long way. So we'll discuss it tomorrow, but I think it's good that DPW and Planning and Development are able to have a good conversation about this and say what's best for the town, and with a concerted effort with maybe a positive outcome. So I like the idea, and I appreciate the DPW actually taking a look at this, because I do know that was how do we tie in these bike trails with all these road construction projects that we're doing, and it just moves the town in a different direction. So I appreciate your time, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, Councilor Jovan?
Yeah, through you to Heather. Just one quick question, I'm sure, is that these design plans for West Street at School Street, is this project gonna take care of the water drainage that ices up in both Collier and School?
Excellent question. Thank you. Yes, currently there's a telephone pole through the drainage line right down from School Street, which there's surface water that comes, groundwater that comes out of the hill on School Street and runs across, can't get into the catch basin or go anywhere because of that problem, and then goes down to Collier. So yes, there are, in these plans, you will find that there is an underdrain system, including, I believe, another catch basin, and Alex is actually on. He is from Ty and Bond. He did join us. I asked him if he could be on, that he could. But we are trying to address that area also, Mr. Jovan. We are very aware of it, and we are incorporating that into design.
Okay, and then second question on the sidewalks, and I mean, certainly I like the plan, and I like the fact that we're being proactive to look at all projects when we do this, project at the same time. Again, complete one project and just get it done, then move to another section of town. On your plan that you had at West Street on the field side, where you had the sidewalks where the parking is, which I think is a great idea for the ball fields and all that. Is that incorporated? Do you have new fencing going up along the field itself because you're gonna have sidewalks there? Is that part of the project? Do you know?
I don't know that we looked at that. Alex, do you have a answer to that?
Yeah, right now we're calling to retain the fence. The slope drops off pretty good right there. So the idea was if we could hold the fence, then we wouldn't be making any grade impacts. The additional width, if you will, comes from the fact that West Street's pretty wide through that section. So it's actually just kind of necking the road down a little bit to get that space for the sidewalk. Is there a specific concern with the fence condition or anything like that? Is it a reasonable thing to address, or?
I think maybe once we do the project, if we take a look at that fence, because I think it is an older fence, and I don't know what kind of condition it is. So it would be something that if we're going to do it, to replace that fence along that parking lot area as well. Just get it all done and dress it up somewhat if we're going to do this nice road and new parking area and all that. And you know, the cost of the fence can't be that substantial that we don't incorporate something in there to make it both aesthetically and safety wise. So
that won't
thank
be
you. Those are my two things.
That won't be the proverbial hair broke the camel's back. So
Sorry, I missed that, but thank you. Are you all set, Councilor Jovan?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
All right, thank you. But I just have one. Oh, Councilor Steves.
Yeah, just a quick question. I remember regarding that fence, if you're talking about the same fence I'm thinking of, didn't we just replace that fence maybe 5 or 6 years ago? I remember there were a huge brouhaha surrounding Ron trying to do something with a fence down at the West Street playing fields. Did that ever get done?
No, that wasn't the fence that was talking about. I think there was other fencing closer to the fields. The backstop fencing, I think, was what Ron was trying to do. This is up closer to the parking lot. This is more to prevent anybody from falling down the slope. What got done at the fields was DPW went out and attempted to fix the fence as well as we could that was existing. And this fence, I know, is a maintenance nightmare for us. So, well, all our old fences are maintenance nightmares that we spend time trying to fix and keep together. So maybe it is time to look at it and see what we could do. And maybe there's something we could do that's more aesthetically pleasing too than just a chain link fence. So we can definitely, take that as a comment back and look at what needs to be done. I do want to just bring up, because of where they are in the project, we are, like I said, these say 100% design, not for construction. That's because we are literally doing our final review on them. If we decide that we are going to do a shared path, multimodal shared path, that will require some altercations to these plans, and it's really not in Ty and Bond's budget. So we don't need to make a decision on this tonight, but there would likely be a change order. It won't probably be considerable, but we will likely have a change order for them to address this scope change for this multi-use path. I can ask Alex to get us some numbers on it so that we'll know more about it. But again, they did some concept plans, but it will change it, and will change their specs and how they bid it. Now we can do options of an alternate bid, that we could have it in there as some type of alternate bid. So if, depending on how we do it, if that's the way the council wants to go. But I will wait until the conversation is more in depth about the shared path and complete streets before we go there.
All right.
I just want to give it a heads up.
My only question is, just remind me of, when is this project going to start?
This project is supposed to go out to bid and start this spring.
All right, thank you.
So that's why, the rush.
It's the West Street and the South Street. I keep getting those two. One is going first and then the other one next year, right?
Well, South Street is already underway, as you're aware, if you've been up there, as I'm aware, because I drive it every day. So they are halfway into putting in the water line. They have stopped through the winter, and they're looking to start back up in April. I have had in our meetings just this week with Alex, some conversations about timing and what can be done concurrently while the work is going on. But there is some drainage work, there is some water work that can be done, but we're going to have to be very concerned about what we're able to do with construction in the South Street intersection while South Street is going on. So And they're
Alright.
aware of that, and we're working that into the bid document.
All right, thank you. Unless anybody has anything else, I'm going to move on to agenda item number 10. All right, discuss Page Hill and Dudley River Road projects. This is a follow-up from the last meeting. I believe, Mr. Splain, you had some questions about this at the last meeting. If you want to refresh our memory on that.
Yes, I did. We were waiting for information to come in, and I believe we got it on December 16th about this project. And first, I'd like to say, I know that project was a pain in the neck. I think it was the toughest project we had out of all the roads we did this year. I think it came out the best out of all of them. But my question is, after receiving the information through you to Heather, I believe, can you explain to me how come we received two separate invoices from one contractor for the same job, same time frame?
So the original scope of work, I'm assuming you're talking about Mr. Piappi. The
Yeah.
original scope of work was only for using the grade all and his labor to widen the road. It was not considered we were going to use our own excavator with the hammer to do any rock, which we did attempt to do. We were unsuccessful, so then we went out for additional quotes, and Mr. Piappi's rental of his hammer was the cheapest, so that was a different scope.
So we did go out and get quotes and bids on that after?
Yep. Well, we have a rental quote from somebody from one of the online bidders that we can use, online services we can use, state contract, which was much higher. And yeah, we received another quote, I think from Precise Paving or something. So we received 3 quotes.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Page Hill or Dudley River Road? No. Okay. Agenda item number 11, update on replacing town hall carpets. Heather, we talked about this a couple meetings ago, and you assured me the carpets were going to get done this winter.
Oh, so it's still winter. I actually had a conversation with the town manager about, I said, can I rip up the carpets? And he said, can you wait till February? So I would like to get the carpets out of there so that we can see what the condition of the subfloor is to make some determinations whether we need to put new subfloor in. At least in the hallway, I have some concerns about what that subfloor looks like, and that might be causing some of our problems. And until we have better resolution of what's going on in that subfloor, I can't put together a scope of work. So.
Okay.
And then we'll have to put a scope of work and go out to bid. I mean, we've talked about different options, including floor tiles. We've had some internal discussions, but we need to get, knowing completely what's going on there before we can put a scope out. And also, we need to find funding source for that project, because at this time, I don't have funding in my budget. I don't know if there's a different source of money for that type of upgrade, but as far as I know, it's going to be above the $10,000 capital requirement, so we will have to come back to council for additional funds.
All right. Mr. Town Manager?
So I just wonder, Ms. Blakely did talk to me. Actually, I saw some of her employees over. She has some employees doing some work at Town Hall right now. And we actually were talking about carpets today. Part of my thought process at the time, we were dealing with COVID, and she's had shortages, and we've had to deal with some snow and plow. And my only thought with regard to February is it does get quiet certain weeks as our schedules coincide with schools. And I think we had just passed the right around the Christmas holiday week, and I thought, well, maybe the next big holiday break that people get is that week in mid-February. And I think that was part of the conversation was a lot of times when kids are out of school, we get less foot traffic in the town hall. That might be a better time for us to tackle that. And hopefully we would have gotten through our heavier plowing season, which tends to be in January and early February. So my thought was we'd be through the pandemic, we would be full staff, less traffic. So that was part of that discussion. Just in case you asked me why February, and that was my thought, just based on the traffic patterns that we used to get for people coming in.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Dow, did you have something that you wanted to ask?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, to Heather, isn't it that carpet was changed like 5 years ago, 4 years ago, somewhere?
Now, I think Mr. Marchetti is specifically referring to the carpet in the hallway. There are other locations that the carpet is bad in the town hall, and I wouldn't want to incorporate it into the entire project. And it was changed. There was carpet changed, and I think it's at least pushing 5 years. I would probably have to try to go and see if we could find the time frame. I really wasn't involved in the project when it was done, but it wasn't done correctly, and there was issues in the carpet in the town manager's office. The assessor's office was addressed. They did reglue that, but also in the Maddie's office area, in the town clerk's office area, there's issue with the carpet also. So we would be looking at those 3 areas. Those 3 areas are the places that the carpet is looking at peeling up, but specifically need to look at what's underneath and get some recommendations on how best to treat that entrance area. I've had some conversations that it's probably maybe better to put some of that non-slip surface down in front of where the doors come in and front of the elevator, because we get so much salt and sand in that area, and then transition into carpet further into the hallway, or carpet tiles, something that's not, I've kind of had different conversations with Joel and Jamie, something that's going to be more durable, like wash multiple times in front of the elevators, and then transition away from it, because that's part of the reason that carpet's coming up.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Dow. Does anybody else have anything? Okay. So now we're looking at February. So I will bring it up again in February.
I will continue to do research and try to get some options of what type of carpets we should be putting down. Honestly, it's not my area of expertise, but I have enough knowledge to be, to give you some feedback of what I need, in different options. Obviously, I can evaluate and look at the entrance area and say there's a problem here with carpet, because it's very visible to see. It's just trying to determine what the reasoning for the failure of that carpet. It could just be that, it's a high use traffic area, and it's definitely probably 20 years old, if not older, from the last time when it was updated, especially in the hallway. It is just time for it to be updated and upgraded, but let's put the right materials in there.
I agree. Yep. And we do have some good carpet installers in town, so should be able to do it.
Well, we might be looking at a commercial size project, so.
All right. Well, thank you. If no one else has anything else to talk about, then I will look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion moved.
Second.
All right. Motion to adjourn by Councilor Dow, second by Splain. All those in favor, I'm yes. Councilor Steves?
Yes.
Yep.
Councilor Dow?
Yep.
And Mr. Splain?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, everybody, for